market rents, the average cost of a nutritious food basket, and include money for basic needs such as transportation and utilities. The rates should be adjusted annually for inflation. Along with the improvements to ODSP benefits, we also urge the government to renew their focus on employment strategies for people with disabilities to allow people every opportunity to increase their self-reliance through earnings and reduce their reliance on ODSP income supports. And finally, we would be doing families a disservice if we did not raise the issue of waiting lists. Waiting lists for supports and services within the developmental services sector are at an all-time high and must be addressed despite the economic pressure the government is currently facing. Failure to do so will continue to result in families slipping into crisis situations and will ultimately result in far greater cost to society. In the past, service providers, like community living associations, have risen to the challenge of finding efficiencies and cost savings and have been leaders in developing innovative ways of expanding the availability of quality services within existing resources. These efforts have produced results, and additional people have received new supports, but there is no further room for cuts and efficiencies. Budgets are stretched too thin, and waiting lists are plaguing communities all across the province. We do appreciate and thank the Ministry of Community and Social Services for the recent announcement of an additional $40 million to address waiting lists and crisis situations. This is a good beginning. We now need to ensure that the money gets out quickly and for the government and other stakeholders to come together to develop a long-term plan to address the overwhelming unmet needs. At this time, I'd like to ask Susan Sellers to say a few words about how local associations are rising to the challenge of providing meaningful supports and services. Susan?
Thank you, Debbie. This is a wonderful day for community living, and we are so pleased to be celebrating in the Legislature today. Community Living Day acknowledges that people with an intellectual disability should be part of our community, and more importantly, that they are valued citizens who deserve to be included and fully participate in it. Today, people with an intellectual disability can hold their heads high as they take their rightful place as valued, respected, and included members of our community. This didn't happen overnight. This journey began 60 years ago when a campaign was spearheaded by parents and caregivers who wanted something more for their children who had an intellectual disability. In Toronto, it all began with one grandmother wanting more for her 7-year-old grandson. Alternatives to institutions began to emerge as families banded together to provide programs. They started running nursery schools out of church basements and joining with parents from all over Ontario with the message that people with an intellectual disability could and should be part of their community. They created schools, employment training, and other supports that would allow their sons and daughters to live in the community, close to their family, and proving that community living should be the only option. That ability to create new opportunities and partner with government and community organizations to facilitate community life is what drives not only Community Living Toronto, but all local associations across Ontario. Our mission at Community Living Toronto is to support each person by giving them a voice and assisting them with making choices in their lives, choices that are meaningful and will help them achieve their goals and dreams, where they go to school, where they live, what they want to do after they finish school, how they spend their free time, and even what they want to do when they retire. We've come far in 60 years, but there is still work to be done. While thousands of individuals and families are receiving quality, stable support, many thousands more, as Debbie mentioned, are going without, and thousands more fall through the cracks. Many of these individuals have what is called a dual diagnosis. These are individuals who have a developmental disability as well as a psychiatric illness. They often fall through the cracks. The National Coalition on Dual Diagnosis estimates that approximately 40% of people with an intellectual disability also have a mental illness. That's 144,000 people in Ontario. Many never get the proper support that they need because of a lack of coordinated services prevents early diagnosis and support. Often the diagnosis of developmental disability overshadows underlying psychiatric issues, and people bounce between psychiatric hospitals and housing and between developmental services and living on the street. That has a profound impact on an individual's quality of life. In fact, many do end up living on the streets. Still others become involved with the legal system. Approximately 25% of people in Canada's prison system are suspected to have a dual diagnosis. This is preventable, and no one should have to live with such uncertainty and instability. But to do that, we need to do certain things. First, develop a comprehensive training strategy that addresses the capacity of agencies and professionals to properly identify and support people, including training and education. Second, expand treatment resources throughout Ontario so that people can receive support when they need it. Most importantly, we need government ministries to develop a partnership to ensure early identification